Imagine the dead of night in Vatican City, the air thick with an unnatural chill that seeps through ancient stone walls as a shadowy figure slips through dimly lit corridors beneath St. Peter's Basilica. In the heart of this labyrinth, a vault door creaks open, revealing shelves groaning under the weight of forbidden scrolls and artifacts that pulse with an otherworldly energy. What if, hidden among these relics, lies proof that the gods of old weren't divine beings from heaven, but visitors from the stars, extraterrestrials known as the Anunnaki, whose secrets could shatter the foundations of faith and history as we know it? This isn't just a tale spun from whispers. It's a cosmic cover-up that reaches from the sands of ancient Sumer to the halls of power today, where knowledge of alien origins is guarded like a forbidden fruit, teasing the edge of revelation but always just out of reach. As the figure pauses, heart pounding in the silence, broken only by the faint drip of condensation from the vault's ceiling, a single document catches the eye. A faded report from the 1940s, detailing a UFO crash in Italy under Mussolini's regime. Back-channeled to Pope Pius XII, it speaks of recovered technology that defies earthly science, technology that echoes descriptions in Sumerian clay tablets of flying craft, piloted by the Anunnaki. Could this be the key to understanding why the Vatican has amassed a secret archive rumored to hold over 84 kilometers of shelves, filled not just with religious texts, but with accounts of unexplained aerial phenomena observed by clergy across centuries? The air grows heavier, laden with the scent of aged parchment, and something metallic, almost electric, as if the very walls hum with suppressed truths about beings who walked among humans, shaping our destiny from the shadows. But let's pull back from this clandestine scene, dear listener, and consider the broader canvas. What if the Anunnaki, those princely offspring of the sky god An in Sumerian lore, were not myths but advanced humanoids from a distant planet called Nibiru, arriving on Earth 500,000 years ago to mine gold and engineer our species? Zecharia Sitchin, the pioneering author whose works like The 12th Planet have sold millions, proposed this very idea back in 1976, drawing from his unique translations of cuneiform texts. He argued that these beings hybridized their DNA with early hominids to create Homo sapiens as laborers, a narrative that mirrors biblical creation stories but with an extraterrestrial twist. Sitchin's legacy lives on in viral discussions, with figures like Billy Carson expanding on it through documentaries and series that blend ancient texts with modern astrophysics, suggesting Nibiru's elliptical orbit brings it close every 3,600 years, influencing cataclysmic events like the Great Flood. The intrigue deepens when we turn our gaze to the Vatican's own symbols, hidden in plain sight amid the grandeur of Rome. Picture the courtyard of the Pine Cone, where a massive bronze sculpture of a pine cone stands sentinel, its scales gleaming under the Italian sun like a relic from another era. This isn't mere decoration. Ancient Sumerian reliefs depict Anunnaki figures holding similar pine cones, pointing them toward human heads, as if bestowing knowledge or activating something within. Esoteric traditions link the pine cone to the pineal gland, that pea-sized organ in our brains often called the third eye, responsible for intuition, visions, and perhaps even interdimensional perception. Online forums buzz with theories posts on X from researchers like Michael Salla and David Wilcock speculate that the Vatican's pine cone is a deliberate nod to this gland, a symbol of spiritual awakening that the Anunnaki understood and manipulated. Why would the Church, an institution built on divine revelation, incorporate such a motif if not to subtly acknowledge or conceal a deeper connection to these ancient visitors? This symbol takes on an even more ominous tone when tied to modern disclosures. In 2024 and 2025, pressure mounted on the Vatican following the death of Pope Francis, with advocates, like those from the New Paradigm Institute, demanding the release of secret files on UFO encounters. Reports from outlets such as NewsNation and the Daily Mail highlight whistleblower claims, including those from David Grush, who testified before U.S. Congress about non-human biologics recovered from crashes. One particularly tantalizing thread traces back to a 1933 incident in Magenta, Italy, where an alleged UFO was retrieved and reportedly shared with the Vatican through back channels. By 2025, declassified Italian files and leaked emails suggest the Church has been studying these phenomena for decades. classifying them not as demonic but potentially as angelic or extraterrestrial visitors aligning with theological concepts of higher beings. Good evening, dear listeners of Mystery History for Sleep. This is Mr. H, your humble guide through the veiled corridors of time, where history whispers secrets meant only for those who dare to listen in the quiet hours before dawn. If these tales of cosmic intrigue and hidden vaults stir your curiosity, as they do mine, I invite you to join our growing community. Subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and let each new episode drift into your nights like a gentle fog, revealing mysteries one layer at a time. Together, we'll uncover the enigmas that bind the stars to our earthly fates. Now, returning to the heart of this enigma, consider how these threads weave into a tapestry of control. The Vatican's secret archives, officially known as the Apostolic Archive since 2019, are said to contain documents spanning 12 centuries, accessible only to a select few scholars under strict supervision, amid U.S. congressional hearings on unidentified anomalous phenomena. Calls for transparency have echoed from figures like attorney Daniel Sheehan, a former Vatican advisor, who suggests that a new pope could be pivotal in UFO disclosure. He posits that extraterrestrial life would not contradict Catholic doctrine but enhance it, perhaps viewing these beings as part of God's vast creation. Yet, the Church's hesitation speaks volumes. Rumors persist of manuscripts detailing encounters that parallel Sumerian accounts of Anunnaki descending from the heavens in fiery chariots, bestowing knowledge but demanding servitude. The sensory details of such encounters add to the allure and the dread. Imagine the metallic tang in the air during a UFO sighting near Rome, as reported in scattered X posts and Reddit threads, lights dancing erratically across the sky. Silent, yet pulsing with an energy that raises the hairs on one's neck. Though official records are scarce, anecdotal evidence from pilgrims and locals describes a hum like distant thunder, a vibration felt in the bones, reminiscent of ancient texts where the Anunnaki's arrival shook the earth. In Sitchin's interpretations, these gods from Nibiru engineered floods and cataclysms to reset civilizations, a pattern that conspiracy theorists link to modern climate anomalies and unexplained seismic events, suggesting the planet's return cycle is nearing. This notion of Nibiru, a rogue world on a long orbit, dismissed by mainstream astronomers as pseudoscience, gains traction in alternative circles. Recent podcasts and YouTube series, like those featuring Jason Martell, update Sitchin's theories with data from NASA's exoplanet hunts, speculating that anomalies in the Kuiper Belt could hint at an unseen massive body. The Vatican's observatory in Arizona, equipped with advanced telescopes, fuels speculation. Why would the Church invest in stargazing, if not to monitor for signs of returning visitors? The air around such observatories carries a crisp, high-altitude clarity, where the night sky unfolds like a map of forgotten realms, stars twinkling as if winking at secrets below. Layer upon layer, the mystery thickens with biblical parallels that Sitchin and others draw to the Anunnaki. The plural Elohim in Genesis, often translated as God but literally meaning gods, echoes the Sumerian council of deities headed by Enlil and Enki. Scholars on platforms like Gaia Television explore how these figures might represent alien hierarchies, with Enki as the genetic engineer behind humanity's leap forward. The scent of incense in Vatican rituals, heavy and resinous, evokes ancient Sumerian temples, where offerings were made to these beings, a continuity that hints at inherited knowledge suppressed to maintain monotheistic control. Yet, the true thrill lies in the forbidden whispers of the pineal gland, as the bridge to Anunnaki consciousness. In esoteric posts, users like Bunny Crumbs argue the gland is our spiritual antenna, calcified by modern toxins like fluoride to dull our third eye. The Vatican's pinecone, cast in bronze during the Renaissance but inspired by Roman artifacts, stands as a silent sentinel, its form evoking the gland's shape under a microscope. Imagine touching its cool surface, feeling the intricate scales that symbolize layers of awakening, while pondering if the Church guards techniques to activate it, reserved for initiates who glimpse the alien divine. This cosmic cover-up extends to global power structures, where the Vatican's influence intersects with intelligence agencies. Following U.S. National Archives releases of UAP records, parallels emerge to Vatican-held documents on similar phenomena. The musty aroma of declassified files, yellowed with age, carries tales of pilots encountering craft that defy physics, much like Sumerian descriptions of Anunnaki Vimanas. Conspiracy circles suggest these are reconnaissance from Nibiru, scouting ahead of a return that could upend world orders. As we delve deeper, the atmosphere grows charged with possibility and peril. What if the Anunnaki's legacy explains unexplained genetic markers in human DNA, as hinted 3 studies from Nature Journal, suggesting rapid evolutionary jumps? The Vatican's bioethics committees, debating such findings, might hold keys to our hybrid origins, guarded to prevent a paradigm shift that questions divine creation. In this web of shadows, each revelation peels back another veil, leaving us breathless in the dim glow of discovery. The Vatican's cosmic cover-up isn't just about hiding UFO files or ancient artifacts. It's about preserving a narrative where humanity's story begins with a single god, not starfaring engineers from Nibiru. Yet, as the night deepens and the stars wheel overhead, one can't help but wonder, how long can such secrets remain buried before the truth bursts forth, illuminating the darkness with an otherworldly light? Picture yourself standing on the cracked, sun-scorched plains of ancient Sumer, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers carve lifelines through the desert, their waters shimmering like molten silver under a relentless Sunday. 4,000 years before the Common Era, scribes pressed wedge-shaped reeds into soft clay, etching tales of the Anunnaki beings they called gods, who descended from the heavens to shape humanity's fate. These were no distant deities cloaked in mystery. They were architects of existence, their stories carved with precision, detailing councils, conflicts, and creations that echo eerily in our modern world. But what if these Anunnaki were not gods at all, but extraterrestrial visitors from a distant planet called Nibiru, whose advanced technology and genetic experiments birthed our species? As the clay hardened under the Mesopotamian sun, it preserved a truth that challenges everything we believe about our origins, a truth that pulses with questions too vast for simple answers. The Anunnaki, as described in Sumerian tablets unearthed in the 1800s, were a pantheon led by figures like Anu, the Sky Father, Enlil, the Lord of Air and Authority, and Enki, the cunning master of wisdom and water. These texts, catalogued in libraries like that of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, paint them as rulers of a cosmic order, deciding the fates of cities and men from their celestial council. Enki, in particular, emerges as a creator, mixing clay with the blood of a slain god to fashion humans, as recounted in the myth of Atrahasis. This act, described with almost clinical detail, feels less like divine inspiration and more like a scientific procedure, a deliberate engineering of life to serve a purpose. In 1976, Zecharia Sitchin, a scholar of ancient languages, ignited a firestorm with his book, The 12th Planet, proposing that these Anunnaki were not mythical but extraterrestrial, hailing from Nibiru, a planet on a 3,600-year orbit through our solar system. His translations, though debated by academics, suggest they came to Earth around 450,000 years ago to mine gold, a resource vital for their planet's atmosphere, and created Homo sapiens as a labor force, by blending their DNA with early hominids. Walk through the ruins of Ur, where the air carries the faint scent of dust and forgotten incense, and you can almost feel the weight of this idea. Sitchin's theory, amplified by voices like Billy Carson on platforms like Gaia Television, points to cuneiform tablets that describe Anunnaki arriving in sky chambers, craft that hum with power, their landings marked by fire and smoke. Cylinder seals, small stone rollers etched with intricate scenes, show winged figures and strange vehicles, unearthed in Eridu digs as recently. These artifacts, housed in museums like the British Museum, depict beings with bird-like heads or radiant auras, standing beside humans as if imparting knowledge or command. To the Sumerians, these were divine encounters, but to modern eyes, they resemble descriptions of advanced technology, spaceships, perhaps, or energy devices that defy our physics. The question burns: were these scribes recording myths, or were they chronicling real visitors whose presence reshaped the ancient world? Now, shift to the streets of America, where the Anunnaki narrative thrives in a culture obsessed with extraterrestrial lore. From Roswell's 1947 crash to the Pentagon's 2021 UAP report, the US pulses with curiosity about beings from beyond. X posts and YouTube channels buzz with speculation, linking Sumerian gods to modern UFO sightings. A Reddit thread from a Nevada-based skywatcher describes a craft near Area 51, its movements mirroring the zigzag flight patterns in Sumerian texts about Anunnaki skyboats. This connection, popularized by shows like Ancient Aliens, resonates with a nation that questions official narratives, from government cover-ups to corporate secrecy. Sitchin's ideas, once fringe, now fuel mainstream discussions, with Carson citing genetic studies in Nature journal that reveal unexplained markers in human DNA jumps in complexity around 200,000 years ago, hinting at external intervention. Could these be traces of Enki's hand, splicing alien genes into our ancestors? The Anunnaki's purpose adds another layer of intrigue. Sumerian texts, like the Enuma Elish, describe their need for gold to stabilize Nibiru's atmosphere, a concept that feels like science fiction but aligns with modern theories about planetary engineering. Exoplanet research from NASA's James Webb Telescope, reported in Scientific American, identifies worlds with atmospheres that could require rare minerals for maintenance. If Nibiru exists, its orbit speculated to cross the Kuiper Belt might explain anomalies detected by astronomers, like perturbations in distant objects' paths. The Sumerians didn't know astrophysics, yet their tablets describe a wandering star that brings upheaval, a detail echoed in conspiracy circles predicting Nibiru's return by 2030. The air in these discussions feels charged, like the static before a storm, as if the past and future are converging in a single, unsettling moment. But the mystery darkens with whispers of control. David Icke, a polarizing figure whose books sell millions in the US, frames the Anunnaki as reptilian overlords, a hidden elite manipulating humanity through bloodlines that stretch from Sumer to modern institutions. His podcast interviews link these beings to global power structures, suggesting that ancient kings, anointed by the Anunnaki, passed their lineage to today's leaders. The scent of intrigue grows sharper when you consider Sumerian king lists, etched on clay in the 3rd millennium before the Common Era, claiming rulers like Alulim reigned for 28,000 years. Absurd to modern ears, yet these durations hint at something beyond human, perhaps genetic enhancements or alien oversight, as Icke and others speculate. In America, where distrust of elites runs deep, this resonates, fueling theories that connect Wall Street, DC, and even religious institutions to a cosmic agenda. The Anunnaki's dual nature, creators and controllers, mirrors a tension in their myths. Enlil, stern and authoritarian, often clashed with Enki, the protector who gifted humanity knowledge. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Enki defies the council's decision to flood the earth, warning Utnapishtim to build a boat. This act of rebellion feels human, almost defiant, as if Enki saw us as more than slaves. Compare this to the Bible's Elohim, a plural term for God that scholars like Michael Heiser Publications argue reflects a divine council, much like the Anunnaki's assemblies. The Hebrew word, used in Genesis is, "Let us make man in our image," suggests a plurality smoothed into monotheism, as if ancient scribes knew of many gods but chose to merge them into one. Standing in the shadow of a ziggurat's crumbling steps, you can almost hear the debates of these beings, their voices carried on a wind that smells of river reeds and ancient fires. Yet, the extraterrestrial angle isn't without skeptics. Mainstream archaeologists, like those at Oxford's Oriental Institute, dismiss Sitchin's translations as speculative, arguing that Anunnaki were symbolic, not alien. They point to Sumerian texts as religious allegory, not historical records, and NASA's statements debunk Nibiru as a myth with no orbital evidence. But the counter-argument persists. Why do Sumerian descriptions of star maps, like those on the Gudea cylinder from 2100 before the Common Era, to align with constellations we only mapped with telescopes in the 21st century? The clay feels heavier in your hands, its wedges sharp with secrets that defy easy dismissal. In 2025, the Anunnaki narrative gains new life through technology. AI-driven translations of cuneiform, shared on platforms like the Cuneiform Digital Library Initiative, reveal details once overlooked. References to metal birds, and sky fire that sound like propulsion systems. Meanwhile, US audiences, steeped in sci-fi from Star Wars to Prometheus, eat up these connections. A poll with 10,000 votes showed 60% of Americans believe ancient civilizations had contact with extraterrestrials. The idea that the Anunnaki engineered us as a workforce, then left us to govern ourselves under their distant watch, feels like a script ripped from a Hollywood blockbuster, yet it's rooted in texts older than the pyramids. The sensory pull of this mystery lingers. Imagine holding a Sumerian seal, its surface cool and worn, etched with a figure wielding a glowing orb, a tool of creation or destruction. The air in those ancient cities must have buzzed with awe and fear as people looked skyward, wondering if their makers would return. Today, that same tension grips us when we read of UAP sightings or ponder our place in a universe teeming with possibilities. The Anunnaki, whether gods or aliens, force us to confront a question that hums like a low-frequency pulse. Are we the children of the stars, shaped by hands not divine but cosmic, whose legacy still shapes our world in ways we're only beginning to grasp? As the clay tablets crumble and the stars keep their silence, the truth remains just out of reach, a riddle waiting for the bold to unravel. So, dear listener, as you drift in this quiet moment, where are you tuning in from? Perhaps a bustling city under neon lights or a quiet desert under a vast sky? What hour is it there? As you ponder these ancient enigmas, the stars above you might hold the same secrets they did for Sumer's scribes. Step into the shadowed heart of Vatican City, where the air grows still and heavy, saturated with the musty scent of ancient parchment and the faint metallic tang of locked iron doors. Beneath the grandeur of St. Peter's Basilica lies a labyrinth known as the Vatican Apostolic Archives, a repository of secrets stretching over 84 kilometers of shelves, each groaning under the weight of manuscripts that have whispered truths for 12 centuries. These are not mere records of popes and councils. They are fragments of a hidden history. Some say that tie humanity's origins to celestial visitors, the Anunnaki, beings etched in Sumerian clay as gods but whispered in modern times as extraterrestrials. What if these vaults hold proof that the Church has known of their presence all along, guarding documents that could unravel the Bible's narrative and reveal a cosmic lineage? The silence of these archives is not accidental. It is a fortress, built to shield knowledge too dangerous for the world to hear. The Vatican Apostolic Archives, renamed from the Secret Archives in 2019, are a paradox, a treasure trove of history accessible only to a chosen few. Scholars granted entry describe a maze of climate-controlled chambers, where the air hums with the faint buzz of dehumidifiers preserving scrolls, codices, and letters that span empires and eras. The archives remain under strict control, with researchers like Daniel Sheehan, a former Vatican consultant, claiming that requests for access to certain files, especially those tied to unexplained phenomena, are met with bureaucratic stonewalling. A leaked email, circulating on X, allegedly from a Vatican librarian, mentions a restricted section labeled Celestial Phenomena, containing reports from clergy dating back to the Middle Ages. These accounts describe lights in the sky, metallic objects moving without wings, and encounters with beings who spoke in tongues unknown. The words in the email linger like a chill. Some truths are not for the faithful to bear. Consider the weight of such documents in a world where the US has pushed for transparency, but congressional hearings on unidentified anomalous phenomena, led by figures like David Grush, revealed government possession of non-human craft. NewsNation reported whispers of Vatican involvement, citing a 1943 incident in Magenta, Italy, where a downed object was allegedly spirited away to Rome under papal oversight. The archives, it said, hold correspondence between Mussolini's regime and Pope Pius XII, detailing a craft with materials that baffled scientists, alloys that shimmered like liquid under torchlight, inscribed with symbols reminiscent of Sumerian cuneiform. Could these be relics of Anunnaki technology, as some online theorists propose, preserved not as holy artifacts but as threats to doctrine? The sensory pull of this mystery is palpable. Imagine standing in a dimly lit archive chamber, the air cool and dry, your footsteps echoing off stone walls as you approach a locked case. Inside, a manuscript from the 6th century, penned by a monk in Mesopotamia, describes sky gods who taught humanity to write and farm. Its pages, brittle as autumn leaves, carry sketches of winged figures holding orbs that glow like stars. Such documents, if they exist, would echo the Sumerian tablets of Enki and Ninma, who shaped humans from clay mixed with divine essence. Posts on platforms like Reddit speculate that these texts were confiscated during the Crusades, when the Church absorbed libraries from fallen cities, ensuring that only its version of creation endured. The scent of wax seals and aged vellum fills the air, a reminder that these papers are not just relics but keys to a forbidden past. The Vatican's role as gatekeeper extends beyond physical documents. The Pontifical Academy of Sciences hosted a closed-door symposium on astrobiology, attended by Jesuit astronomers and NASA consultants. Leaked notes, shared on X, suggest discussions about extraterrestrial implications for theology, with references to Sumerian myths as potential historical records. Why would the Church, steadfast in its monotheistic narrative, delve into such topics? The answer may lie in the archive's oldest holdings, parchments from the Babylonian exile, when Jewish scribes encountered Sumerian stories of the Anunnaki. These texts, some scholars argue, influenced Genesis, transforming Enki's clay humans into Adam and Dilmun's paradise into Eden. Yet, the Church has never acknowledged these parallels publicly, preferring silence to scrutiny. This silence carries a weight of its own, like the heavy clank of a vault door sealing shut. The Vatican's Arizona-based observatory, equipped with the Lucifer telescope, a name that sparks conspiracy theories, continues to scan the heavens. Why does a religious institution invest in such technology? Online forums buzz with speculation, from Gaia Television to TikTok, that the Church monitors for signs of Nibiru, the alleged Anunnaki homeworld. Sitchin's theories, though dismissed by academics, propose that Nibiru's orbit brings it near Earth every 3,600 years, a cycle that could align with reported Kuiper Belt anomalies noted in Astronomy magazine. The archives might hold star charts from Babylon, etched with orbits that match no known planet. Their ink faded, but their implications sharp as a blade. The conspiracy deepens with whispers of a hidden agenda. A whistleblower claiming ties to Vatican security posted on X about a Project Seraphim, a supposed initiative to catalogue extraterrestrial-related artifacts. Though unverified, the post gained traction, linking to a 1985 Vatican statement on the possibility of alien life, which called such beings brothers in creation. The air around these claims feels charged, like the static before a lightning strike, as if the Church knows more than it admits. Imagine a priest, cloaked in shadow, poring over a Sumerian tablet under candlelight, its cuneiform recounting Anunnaki councils that mirror the Bible's Elohim. Such a tablet, if locked away, would challenge the narrative of divine uniqueness, suggesting that the God of Genesis was a composite of older, alien influences. The archive's secrecy fuels American fascination with cover-ups, a nation weaned on Watergate and Area 51. Public pressure mounts, with groups like the New Paradigm Institute demanding the Vatican open its vaults, especially after US disclosures. The sensory allure of this quest is undeniable. Picture the faint glow of a reading lamp illuminating a parchment, its edges curling like secrets reluctant to unfold. A document from the Renaissance, perhaps, describes a papal envoy witnessing a chariot of fire over Florence, its hum shaking the cobblestones. Such accounts, if real, would align with Sumerian descriptions of Anunnaki Vimanas, flying craft that scorched the earth. The Church's reluctance to share these feels like a deliberate act, as if the truth would upend centuries of dogma. Yet, the archives are not just about extraterrestrial whispers, they hold earthly power too. During the Middle Ages, the Church collected texts from conquered lands, from Alexandria to Baghdad, amassing knowledge while controlling its spread. Article in The Guardian noted that the archives contain letters from Galileo, suppressed for challenging cosmology, and trial records of heretics who spoke of sky beings. The air in those trials must have been thick with fear, the crackle of parchment as sentences were read, condemning those who dared echo Sumerian truths. Today, conspiracy theorists like Michael Salla argue that the Vatican's silence is strategic, preserving a hierarchy where only the initiated access the full story of humanity's origins. The forbidden nature of these archives lies in their potential to rewrite history. Imagine a codex, its leather cover cracked, detailing a 4th century council where bishops debated including Sumerian-influenced texts in the Bible. Such a document would reveal the editing process that shaped scripture, merging Anunnaki councils into a single god. Scholars like Elaine Pagels, in her book The Gnostic Gospels, suggest that apocryphal texts, some possibly held in the archives, preserve traces of these older myths. The scent of dust and sanctity clings to these pages, a reminder that knowledge was once a battlefield, with the Church as its arbiter. The final layer of this mystery is the human cost of secrecy. Posts from anonymous researchers claim that archivists who stumbled upon anomalous documents faced reassignment or worse. The air around such stories feels oppressive, like a storm brewing behind locked doors. If the Vatican holds proof of Anunnaki visits, be it through UFO reports, Sumerian translations, or artifacts like a metallic shard etched with unknown script, their silence is not just caution but control. It's as if the Church fears that revealing our cosmic lineage would shift humanity's gaze from heaven to the stars, from faith to inquiry. As you stand in this imagined archive, the cold stone beneath your feet, and the distant drip of water echoing in the silence, the weight of these secrets presses down. Each shelf, each locked case, holds a piece of a puzzle that spans millennia, from Sumer's clay to Rome's vaults. The Anunnaki, whether gods or aliens, linger in these documents, their story a whisper that refuses to fade. The Vatican's forbidden library is more than a repository. It's a battleground where truth and power clash, where the past is guarded not to preserve it, but to keep it from changing the future. What lies behind those iron doors, waiting to be read, could redefine who we are, or confirm what we've always suspected, that our makers came from the stars, and their secrets are closer than we dare believe. In the dim glow of the observatory, perched on a Chilean mountaintop, astronomers huddle around screens flickering with data streams from the Vera Sea. Rubin Observatory, its massive lens sweeping the southern skies in search of elusive cosmic wanderers. As the first images roll in from its 10-year survey, set to revolutionize our understanding of the universe, whispers circulate among stargazers. Could this be the tool that finally unmasks Nibiru, the rogue planet lurking in the shadows of our solar system? Long dismissed as pseudoscience, Nibiru, championed by Zecharia Sitchin, as the homeworld of the Anunnaki, refuses to fade into obscurity, its alleged elliptical orbit promising cataclysm with every rumored return. Yet, in this era of advanced telescopes and AI-driven analysis, the line between myth and potential discovery blurs, leaving us to ponder if the shadows cast by distant anomalies hide a doom foretold, or merely the echoes of ancient fears amplified by modern paranoia. Nibiru first emerged from Sitchin's 1976 interpretations of Sumerian texts, where he described a massive planet on a 3,600-year orbit, swinging through our system like a cosmic pendulum. According to his narrative, this world populated by advanced beings who mined Earth's gold and engineered humanity last approached during biblical times, triggering floods and upheavals. The concept has evolved, fueled by a surge of YouTube documentaries claiming NASA's hidden files confirm its existence. Videos like NASA's Nibiru files, The Hidden Planet They Deny, uploaded in May 2025, rack up millions of views, alleging classified evidence of orbital perturbations in the Kuiper Belt. These claims, often narrated with dramatic music and grainy animations, point to NASA's reports on unexplained gravitational tugs on distant objects, suggesting an unseen mass, perhaps Planet 9, a hypothetical super-Earth proposed by astronomers Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown in 2016. The intrigue lies in the data itself. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, operational since 2022, has captured anomalies in exoplanet atmospheres that conspiracy circles twist into proof of Nibiru's influence. A Scientific American article details infrared signatures from the outer solar system, where faint heat blooms could indicate rogue bodies. Batygin and Brown's models, updated, predict Planet 9's mass at 5 to 10 Earths, with an orbit taking 10,000 years, far shorter than Sitchin's cycle, but enough to spark parallels. Imagine the telescope's mirrors, chilled to near absolute zero, capturing these whispers of gravity, their data packets racing back to Earthbound servers where algorithms sift for patterns. In one simulation, shared in a Caltech webinar earlier this year. A Planet 9-like object disrupts comet paths, mirroring Sumerian tales of a wandering star that heralds chaos. Conspiracy theorists, however, push beyond science into the apocalyptic. On platforms like X, threads speculate that Nibiru's approach explains recent seismic spikes, earthquakes in California, and volcanic stirrings in Iceland, framed as precursors to a pole shift. A viral post from user at CosmicWatch2025, with over 100,000 likes, links NASA's budget cuts to a cover-up, claiming the agency diverts funds to monitor the incoming threat. These narratives draw from Sitchin's legacy, where Nibiru's gravity allegedly caused the Great Flood, as described in the Epic of Atrahasis. Podcasters like Joe Rogan revisit these ideas, interviewing guests who cite nature studies on ancient DNA anomalies, suggesting rapid human evolution coincided with a cataclysmic event around 12,000 years ago, perhaps Nibiru's last pass. The planet's shadow extends to environmental omens. Climate data shows unusual atmospheric disturbances, with auroras visible farther south than ever, attributed by mainstream science to solar flares but twisted by doomsayers into Nibiru's electromagnetic interference. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory captured a coronal mass ejection that conspiracy videos claim was deflected by an unseen force, their narrators zooming in on pixelated anomalies like ghosts in the machine. Picture satellite feeds glitching, engineers scratching heads in Houston control rooms as readouts spike inexplicably. Is it solar wind, or the bow shock of our approaching world? The Rubin Observatory, beginning operations, promises to map billions of objects, potentially spotting such intruders. Its wide-field camera, surveying the sky every few nights, could detect faint trails that evade current scopes, fueling hopes or fears that Nibiru's silhouette will emerge from the data haze. Yet, skepticism abounds, rooted in hard evidence. NASA's official stance, reiterated in a press release, debunks Nibiru as a hoax, emphasizing that any large planet would have been detected by infrared surveys like WISE in 2010. Astronomers point to the absence of gravitational effects on known planets. Neptune's orbit remains steady, unperturbed by phantom masses. David Morrison, former NASA senior scientist, once fielded emails about Nibiru doomsday in 2012, calling it a tragic mix of misinformation and fear. His successors echo this, but the myth persists, amplified by AI-generated deepfakes showing leaked NASA footage of a red planet looming. These videos, circulating on TikTok, blend real Hubble images with CGI, creating a veneer of authenticity that draws in millions. The doom aspect captivates, drawing from apocalyptic traditions. Sumerian texts warn of Enlil's wrath, unleashing floods when humanity grew too noisy, parallels to today's climate crises that theorists exploit. A documentary on Gaia Television, Nibiru's Return, Signs in the Skies, interviews self-proclaimed psychics who channel Anunnaki warnings. Unusual meteor showers are harbingers. NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office reported a spike in fireballs this year, dismissed as coincidence but seized upon as evidence. Imagine lying under a desert sky, stars streaking like omens, each trail a reminder of ancient prophecies reborn in digital age anxiety. Economic threads weave into the narrative too. Gold prices surged amid global tensions, prompting claims that elites hoard the metal for Nibiru's atmospheric repair, per Sitchin. Forums buzz with stock tips tied to doomsday prepping, blending finance with fantasy. Meanwhile, the Rubin Observatory's data, expected to flood in by late 2025, could confirm Planet 9's existence not as Nibiru, but as a cold super-Earth, its discovery reshaping solar system models without apocalypse. The shadow of Nibiru, then, is less about the planet itself and more about human psyche, our craving for cosmic drama in uncertain times. As Rubin's survey unfolds, each dataset passed by supercomputers, the possibility lingers. What if an anomaly appears? A blip defying explanation. Interconnected world, news would spread like wildfire, from X alerts to emergency broadcasts. Would it signal doom, or merely a new chapter in astronomy? The planet's myth endures because it taps into primal fears of the unknown, hurtling from the void, reshaping destinies as the Anunnaki once did. delve deeper, and Nibiru's lore intersects with other enigmas. The congressional UAP hearings referenced off-world vehicles, sparking ties to Anunnaki craft from Nibiru. Whistleblowers like Luis Elizondo, in interviews, hint at recovered tech with non-terrestrial isotopes, echoing Sitchin's gold mining tales. The air crackles with potential, as if the universe conspires to reveal its secrets piecemeal. In the end, Nibiru's shadow stretches long, a silhouette cast by imagination and incomplete data. With Rubin's eye unblinking on the heavens, the question hangs: is doom approaching, or are we merely projecting ancient shadows onto modern skies? The planet may never materialize, but its legend persists, a testament to our eternal gaze toward the stars, seeking answers in the dark. In the hushed confines of a dimly lit study, two ancient texts lie open side by side, their words bridging millennia like invisible threads spun from the fabric of human wonder. On one page, the Babylonian Enuma Elish unfolds its epic drama, a cosmic battle etched in cuneiform around the second millennium before the Common Era, where gods clash in primordial chaos to forge the world from violence and ambition. On the other, the Hebrew Genesis narrates a serene orchestration of creation, composed centuries later during the Babylonian exile, where a singular voice commands light from darkness with effortless authority. As scholars have long pondered, these narratives share an uncanny rhythm, 7 tablets mirroring 7 days, chaos subdued into order, humanity emerging as a capstone, raising a provocative question: did Genesis borrow from Enuma Elish, reshaping a polytheistic storm into a monotheistic symphony? Or do they both draw from a deeper, shared wellspring of ancient Near Eastern thought? The parallels tantalize, suggesting not outright theft, but a cultural conversation whispered across empires, where stories evolve to serve new truths, leaving us to chase the shadows of influence in every verse. The Enuma Elish begins in a void of swirling waters, where Apsu, the fresh water, mingles with Tiamat, the salty sea, birthing a pantheon of gods whose noisy ambitions spark cosmic rebellion. Marduk, the storm god, rises as champion, slaying Tiamat in a visceral confrontation, her body split to form the heavens and earth, her blood and bones the raw materials of creation. This isn't mere mythology, it's a political allegory, celebrating Babylonian supremacy through Marduk's triumph, as noted in recent analyses that highlight its role in royal rituals. In 2024, explorations of the text emphasize how this violence mirrors the harsh realities of ancient warfare, where order emerges from conquest, not decree. Yet, flip to Genesis, and the scene transforms. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, with the spirit hovering over the formless deep Tehom, a word linguistically kin to Tiamat, evoking not a monstrous foe but a passive canvas for divine artistry. No battles rage. Instead, a rhythmic let there be, separates light from dark, waters from sky, land from sea, each act building toward harmony without a drop of blood spilled. This contrast sparks endless curiosity. Why soften the edges? During the 6th century before the Common Era, when Judean exiles in Babylon absorbed local lore, scribes might have encountered Enuma Elish recited in temples, its 7 tablets performed to affirm Marduk's kingship. Recent scholarly discussions propose that Genesis 1 serves as a polemical response, demythologizing the Babylonian epic by stripping away its gods and gore, elevating Yahweh as the unchallenged creator who speaks worlds into being without rivals. Imagine those exiles, surrounded by ziggurats honoring Marduk, crafting a counter-narrative that asserts their god's sovereignty. No need for combat when one voice suffices. The 7-day structure in Genesis echoes the 7 tablets, but where Enuma Elish culminates in Marduk's enthronement and rest amid his temple, Genesis ends with Sabbath sanctity, a day of divine repose that reframes exhaustion from battle into holy completion. Delving deeper, the sequence of creation unfolds with striking symmetry. In Enuma Elish, the first tablet sets the stage with chaotic waters. Marduk's victory on the subsequent ones divides the cosmos, fixes the stars, and establishes time's cycles. By the 6th tablet, humanity is fashioned from the blood of Kingu, Tiamat's consort, to toil for the gods, relieving them of labor. The seventh tablet seals Marduk's rule with praise and a banquet. Now align this with Genesis. Day 1 separates light from darkness. Day 2 divides the waters. Day 3 brings dry land and plants. Day 4 sets sun, moon and stars. Day 5 fills seas and skies with life. Day 6 creates animals and humans. On the seventh day, God rests, blessing it as holy. The parallels aren't coincidental, both envision creation as taming chaos into structure, but Genesis inverts the drama, making humans the pinnacle, formed in God's image to rule, not serve as slaves. What fuels the stolen creation debate? In online forums, users dissect these overlaps, some accusing Genesis of plagiarism from Babylonian sources, while others see shared cultural motifs from a common Mesopotamian heritage. Archaeological finds bolster this. The Enuma Elish tablets, discovered in Ashurbanipal's library in the 19th century, predate the earliest Genesis manuscripts by centuries, suggesting influence during the exile, when Judeans refined their scriptures. Yet, differences intrigue just as much. Enuma Elish's polytheism, with gods begetting gods in noisy discord, contrasts Genesis's monotheistic calm, where no divine family squabbles disrupt the process. Tiamat's monstrous form becomes the neutral Tehom, her defeat a mere parting of waters. This reworking, as explored in biblical studies, might reflect a deliberate theological shift, turning pagan spectacle into profound simplicity to affirm Yahweh's unrivaled power. The human element adds layers of mystery. In Enuma Elish, people are afterthoughts, molded from blood and clay to bear the gods' burdens, their creation a pragmatic solution to divine fatigue. Genesis elevates this. Humans, made from dust but breathed into with divine life, are tasked with dominion and stewardship, reflecting God's likeness. Recent discussions on social media highlight how this inversion critiques Babylonian hierarchy, positioning humanity not as laborers but as partners in creation. Envision the scribes in exile, poring over clay tablets under flickering lamps, adapting familiar motifs to preserve their identity amid foreign gods. Did they steal or innovate? The question lingers, as analyses note that both texts address universal queries: whence chaos? Why order? But Genesis strips away mythology's violence, offering a vision where creation is good from the start, unmarred by godly strife. Cosmological echoes further captivate. Enuma Elish's firmament, fashioned from Tiamat's skin to hold back upper waters, parallels Genesis's dome separating heavens from earth, both envisioning a three-tiered universe with waters above and below. But where Babylonians saw this as Marduk's trophy, Hebrews viewed it as God's benevolent barrier, ensuring life's stability. In Bible study threads, participants marvel at these shared blueprints, debating if they stem from oral traditions predating both texts or direct borrowing during captivity. The stars and luminaries, set to mark time in both, underscore a calendar's sacred role. Babylonian festivals tied to Marduk's victory, Hebrew Sabbaths to divine rest, hinting at how creation myths anchored societal rhythms. Theological implications stir deeper curiosity. Enuma Elish glorifies empire through Marduk's ascent, mirroring Babylon's dominance. Genesis, penned in subjugation, proclaims a God beyond empires, whose creation needs no violence to affirm sovereignty. Scholarly posts explore this as subversive storytelling, where exiles reclaim narrative power by reimagining borrowed elements. No wonder debates rage. Is Genesis a stolen tale polished for monotheism, or a brilliant adaptation elevating human dignity? Recent online exchanges accuse it of cultural appropriation, yet defenders argue parallels prove a common human quest for origins, with Genesis refining chaos into purpose. Linguistic clues add intrigue. Words like tohu wabohu in Genesis, formless and void, evoke Enuma Elish's pre-creation tumult, while the divine wind, ruach, over waters recalls Marduk's stormy breath. Linguistic studies trace these Semitic roots, suggesting shared vocabulary from Akkadian influences during exile. Yet, Genesis omits Enuma Elish's theogony, the birth of gods, focusing solely on cosmogony, as if deliberately pruning polytheistic branches to let monotheism flourish. Humanity's role seals the enigma. Enuma Elish's blood-clay humans toil eternally, Genesis's dust-breathed beings rule as God's image-bearers, a promotion that discussions link to exilic hope affirming worth amid oppression. Did scribes steal to survive, or innovate to inspire? The texts invite endless exploration. Their symmetries a mirror to our own search for beginnings, where every parallel uncovers not theft, but transformation, a stolen spark kindled into eternal light. As debates continue in forums, from academic journals to viral threads, the stolen creation hypothesis evolves, with some seeing Genesis as a direct response to Enuma Elish's imperialism, others as archetypal convergence. The rest on the seventh day, divided by tablets, symbolizes completion, but in Genesis, it's sanctified, turning repose into ritual, a subtle critique of Babylonian excess. This layering keeps the mystery alive, urging us to question, in borrowing, do we diminish or deepen? The ancient words, silent yet eloquent, hold their secrets close, inviting us to read between the lines, where history and myth entwine. So, as you ponder these ancient echoes, dear listener, perhaps from a quiet corner of New York or a starlit plain in Texas, what time is it where you are, as you unravel these cosmic tales? If these mysteries spark your curiosity, consider subscribing to Mystery History for Sleep to join us for more whispers from the past, guiding you gently into the night. In a state-of-the-art genetics lab, scientists peer through microscopes at strands of human DNA, unraveling sequences that whisper of anomalies too precise to be random, sudden leaps in cognitive genes, unexplained markers suggesting a splice from an unknown source. Recent studies, like those published in Nature, reveal how ancient viral DNA embedded in our genome influences early human development, acting as switches that turned on traits for survival in harsh environments. But what if these genetic quirks point not to natural evolution, but to deliberate intervention? Enter the Sumerian myth of Enki and Ninmah, where gods mix clay with divine blood to craft the first humans, a tale that eerily parallels the biblical Adam formed from dust and animated by breath. In the lens of ancient astronaut theories, this isn't metaphor, it's a blueprint for alien engineering, with the Anunnaki as cosmic biohackers who seeded our origins, leaving traces in our very blood that modern science is only now beginning to decode. The Sumerian account, preserved on clay tablets from the 3rd millennium before the Common Era, describes Enki, the god of wisdom, enlisting Ninmah to create workers from the clay of the Abzu, the primordial waters, blended with the blood of a slain deity named Ilu, or Kingu. This mixture, as translated by scholars, forms the Adamu, the first man designed to toil in the gods' gardens and mines, relieving the Anunnaki of labor. The process reads like a recipe. Ninmah kneads the clay, Enki infuses it with essence, and after trial and error, creating flawed beings before perfecting one, they birth a viable human. In 2025, interpretations on platforms like X frame this as genetic modification, with users like @ChristosAvatar sharing videos that claim the Anunnaki used CRISPR-like tech to hybridize their DNA with Homo erectus. The blood element, symbolizing life force or genetic material, suggests not just creation but enhancement, turning primitive hominids into intelligent servants. Contrast this with Genesis, where God forms Adam from the dust of the ground and breathes life into his nostrils, the Hebrew Adama meaning earth or soil. No blood is mentioned, but the act of breathing divine spirit implies a transfer of essence, much like the Sumerian infusion. Biblical scholars note linguistic ties Adam as red earth, perhaps echoing the bloody clay of Mesopotamian myths. Yet, Zecharia Sitchin's 1976 work, The 12th Planet, reframes both as alien ops. Anunnaki from Nibiru, facing a labor crisis on Earth, engineer humans by splicing their genes with ape-like ancestors, using clay as a metaphor for base material and blood for advanced DNA. Sitchin posits Enki as the lead scientist, his essence a sperm sample fertilizing an ape woman's egg, implanted in a surrogate Anunnaki female for gestation. Modern genetics adds fuel to this speculative fire. A study in Scientific American highlights how recent millennia saw rapid genetic adaptations in humans, including traits for lactose tolerance and high-altitude living, but deeper dives reveal older mysteries like a ghost lineage in our DNA from an unknown archaic human group, uncovered in research from the University of Cambridge. This phantom ancestry, blending with Neanderthal and Denisovan genes, suggests interbreeding events around 200,000 years ago, aligning with Sitchin's timeline for Anunnaki arrival. Posts on X from 2025, such as one from @Hybe7e, discuss how philosophers claim Anunnaki shortened human lifespans from 28,000 years to 120, perhaps via genetic tweaks to prevent overpopulation. Could these unexplained DNA segments be Anunnaki insertions, boosting intelligence but capping longevity? The creation myth's details intrigue further. In the Sumerian Atrahasis epic, the gods complain of toil, prompting Enki to propose a primitive worker from clay and blood, a solution after failed prototypes, like beings without speech or with deformities. This trial and error mirrors bioengineering debates, where CRISPR edits create viable embryos but raise ethical red flags. Sitchin's take, the Anunnaki, needing miners for gold to repair Nibiru's atmosphere, accelerated evolution by gene splicing, explaining the missing link in human ancestry. A phys.org article on a lost human lineage supports this gap, revealing genetic evidence of a mixing event between ancient populations, reshaping our evolution. Imagine Enki's lab, sterile vessels bubbling with primordial ooze, divine blood drawn like a sample, mixed to forge Adamu, whose descendants inherit a hybrid vigor and perhaps a cosmic debt. Biblical echoes amplify the mystery. Adam's name ties to blood in some Semitic roots, and his creation from dust evokes clay. But the breath of life adds a spiritual dimension absent in Sumerian pragmatism. Discussions on Reddit's r, divided by wild anime theories, link this to Anunnaki theories, suggesting Adam had three parents: earth, clay, God, blood, and breath, essence, a trinity of origins. Sitchin, in his official site archives, argues Adam had three parents, with Anunnaki DNA providing the spark. Recent Yale research sheds light on genetic changes shaping the human brain, identifying switches altered from chimpanzee ancestors, possibly explaining our leap to sentience. If Anunnaki intervened, these switches could be their handiwork, embedding alien intellect in earthly forms. The alien origins angle thrives in culture. Ex-users like @Itihasasur post about Anunnaki as those of royal blood, linking to Sumerian tablets describing creation from clay and blood. Theories posit Adam as Adapa, a Sumerian sage granted wisdom but not immortality by Enki, mirroring the forbidden fruit's knowledge without eternal life. Wikipedia entries on Anunnaki note Sitchin's claim of them as extraterrestrials creating humans via genetic engineering. A Ancient History X article explores Anunnaki as creators, blending myth with ancient astronaut ideas. Skeptics, like those in a phys.org piece, argue these are mistranslations, with Anunnaki meaning princely seed, not those from heaven. But the blood clay motif persists, evoking lab experiments where bioengineers mix synthetic DNA with organic bases. Sumerian king lists claim reigns of thousands of years, attributed to Anunnaki genes. A X post from @Hybe7e cites philosophers claiming Anunnaki capped lifespans at 120. Genesis echoes this with post-flood limits. Studies on extinct relatives' genes, like those in Science Daily, show adaptive advantages from archaic DNA, perhaps Anunnaki legacies. A structured coalescent model in nature reveals deep ancestral structure, hinting at hidden branches in our tree. The ethical riddle looms. If Adam's origins are alien, are we engineered slaves or evolved heirs? Sitchin's index details the Adam as a slave made to order, from Anunnaki genes and ape-woman eggs. Medium articles delve into Anunnaki stories, confirming clay blood creation. Fandom wikis describe Anunnaki molding humans from clay and blood for wisdom. As labs probe our genome, each discovery teases, is the alien in our blood, waiting to awaken? This hybrid Genesis narrative challenges paradigms. Leaky Foundation podcasts highlight top discoveries, including genetic gifts from extinct kin. If Anunnaki spliced us, our blood carries their shadow, royal yet servile. The curiosity endures. Decode the DNA, and what origins emerge? From clay and blood, we rose, but whose hand stirred the mix? The answers, buried in genes and myths, beckon with promise of revelation. In the intricate web of ancient languages, where words twist like vines concealing hidden fruits, lies a pun that has puzzled scholars for centuries. The Sumerian T, a syllable meaning both rib and life, embedded in the name Ninti, the goddess who emerges to heal a divine ailment. This linguistic knot, first unraveled in translations from the 3rd millennium before the Common Era, forms the core of a riddle that spans cultures and epochs, linking her to the biblical Eve, born from Adam's rib, to become the mother of all living. But peel back the layers, and the puzzle deepens. Could this shared motif be more than coincidence? Perhaps a veiled record of genetic cloning or hybrid creation by extraterrestrial hands? As we trace the threads from Sumerian myths to Hebrew scriptures, the Rib Riddle invites us to question: was Eve's origin a literal extraction, a symbolic play on words, or evidence of ancient bioengineering experiments that echo in our myths like forgotten echoes in a cavern? Ninti's story unfolds in the Sumerian myth of Enki and Ninhursag, a narrative carved on clay tablets discovered in Nippur during excavations in the late 19th century. In this tale, Enki, the god of wisdom and creation, falls ill after consuming forbidden plants in the paradise of Dilmun, his body afflicted in 8 places. Ninhursag, the mother goddess, creates 8 deities to cure him, each corresponding to a pained part. When Enki's rib aches, the Sumerian Ninti is born, her name a clever double entendre, Lady of the Rib, or Lady who makes live. This pun, as linguists like Samuel Noah Kramer noted in his 1956 work History Begins at Sumer, showcases the Sumerian love for wordplay, where one symbol could evoke multiple meanings, blending anatomy with vitality. Ninti heals Enki's rib, granting him renewed life, a motif that feels almost too neat, as if the ancients encoded deeper truths in their etymology. Fast forward to the Book of Genesis, composed around the 6th century before the Common Era during the Babylonian exile, and the riddle reappears with a twist. God places Adam in a deep sleep, removes a tsela, typically translated as rib, but also meaning side or beam, and fashions Eve from it, declaring her woman because she was taken from man. The Hebrew text plays its own game. Eve, or Chava, derives from Kaya, to live, making her the life-giver, much like Ninti's dual essence. Analyses in the Journal of Biblical Literature highlight how this narrative might reflect Mesopotamian influences absorbed during exile, where Judean scribes encountered Sumerian puns and adapted them into a monotheistic framework. The rib becomes literal, the pun lost in translation, but the core idea persists: a woman born from a man's side, embodying life itself. This cross-cultural echo sparks endless speculation. Did Hebrew writers borrow the motif directly, reshaping a goddess's healing role into a human origin story? In online debates on platforms like Quora, users dissect the linguistics, noting how Sumerian T influenced Akkadian and potentially Hebrew terms for life and body parts. Kramer and others suggest the Rib Riddle traveled through oral traditions, evolving from a word game in Sumer to a foundational myth in Israel. Yet, the riddle's persistence raises eyebrows. Why this specific anatomical detail? Some Reddit threads propose it as a metaphor for cloning, removing a rib, rich in marrow and stem cells, to create a genetic duplicate, with Eve as Adam's clone, differentiated by an X chromosome tweak. This sci-fi angle gains traction in ancient astronaut circles, where Zecharia Sitchin in his 1985 book The Wars of Gods and Men interprets Ninti as Ninhursag, the Anunnaki geneticist who birthed the first female hybrid. Delve into the Anunnaki lens, and the riddle transforms. Sitchin posits the gods from Nibiru, facing reproduction issues on Earth, engineered humans via advanced biotech. In the myth, after creating male workers, they needed females. Ninhursag, Ninti, uses Enki's essence, perhaps DNA from his rib, to clone a companion. Discussions on X from users like @Mythos Unveiled link this to modern cloning, where Sheep Dolly in 1996 was created from a mammary cell, a rib of sorts. The pun T cleverly disguises the procedure, extracting rib material, bone marrow for stem cells to generate life. In Genesis, this becomes Eve from Adam's rib, a sanitized version where God's surgery replaces alien labs. An article in Ancient Origins explores how this motif might encode real events, with Anunnaki using CRISPR-like tools to edit genomes. The gender dynamics add another layer to the puzzle. In Sumer, Ninti is a goddess, independent and healing. In Genesis, Eve is derived from man, subordinate yet vital. Feminist scholars, like those in the book Goddesses and the Divine Feminine, argue this shift reflects patriarchal editing during exile, demoting a divine female to a human appendage. The riddle thus hides a power struggle. Sumerian puns celebrated female creativity, but Hebrew literalism reinforced male primacy. Yet, Eve's name as Life Mother preserves Ninti's essence, a subtle rebellion in the text. TikTok videos viralize this, with creators reenacting the myth as a lost goddess story, speculating Ninti was an Anunnaki scientist erased to fit monotheism. Medical angles heighten the curiosity. Ribs house bone marrow, a source of stem cells used in therapies for regenerating tissues. A Lancet study this year details how rib-derived cells can create organoids, mimicking life creation. If ancients knew this, perhaps via Anunnaki tech, the Rib Riddle encodes biotech knowledge. Sitchin claims the Anunnaki performed surgeries, with Enki's rib pain a euphemism for DNA extraction. In X debates, users connect this to Egyptian myths of Isis resurrecting Osiris, another life from body part tale. Artistic depictions fuel the enigma. Sumerian seals from 2100 before the Common Era show goddesses with ribs or life symbols. Biblical art portrays Eve emerging from Adam's side like a sculpture. Museum exhibits at the Louvre juxtapose these, highlighting visual parallels that suggest cultural diffusion. The riddle persists in literature. John Milton's Paradise, lost in 1667, dramatizes the rib scene, but modern retellings like The Red Tent in 1997 reclaim Eve as empowered, echoing Ninti's divinity. Esoteric interpretations twist the puzzle further. Occult forums, the rib represents the side of duality, male-female balance disrupted by extraction. Kabbalistic texts link it to Lilith, Adam's first wife from the same clay, replaced by rib-born Eve for submission. Anunnaki theorists see Lilith as a failed hybrid, Eve, a refined clone. Gaia series explores this, claiming Anunnaki archives, hypothetically in Vatican vaults, detail the experiments. Theological debates keep the riddle alive. Conservative scholars insist Genesis is original revelation, dismissing Sumerian influence as coincidence. Progressives see adaptation, enriching faith with historical context. Podcasts like The Bible Project dissect the rib as metaphor for equality woman from man's side, not head or foot. Yet, the pun's loss in translation hints at deliberate obscuring, perhaps to hide alien origins. Global myths echo the riddle. Hindu tales of Shiva creating Parvati from his side, or Norse stories of Ask and Embla from trees' symbolic ribs. Comparative mythology books trace these to Indo-European roots, but Anunnaki proponents claim global diffusion from Sumer. The curiosity builds. Is the rib a universal symbol for life's origin, or a coded memory of extraterrestrial meddling? Genetic ethics panels. The riddle resurfaces as metaphor for cloning debates. Extracting cells to create life raises Adam-Eve questions. A bioethics journal article this year parallels ancient myths with modern dilemmas, warning of playing God like Enki. The rib riddle, then, isn't solved. It evolves, teasing with possibilities. From Sumerian pun to biblical literalism, from goddess healer to life mother, it whispers of origins lost in translation, inviting us to unravel what the ancients truly meant or hid. Each thread pulled reveals more knots, a puzzle that defies resolution, keeping the mystery eternally alive. Beneath the shimmering waters of the Persian Gulf, where ancient trade routes once crisscrossed like veins of forgotten empires, archaeologists unearthed remnants of a civilization that defies easy categorization structures, etched with symbols of abundance, fertility, and an idyllic existence untouched by time's decay. This is Dilmun, the Sumerian paradise chronicled in hymns from the 3rd millennium before the Common Era, a land where gods strolled amid ever-flowing springs and humanity glimpsed eternity. But venture deeper into its lore, and Dilmun morphs into something stranger, a potential blueprint for the biblical Eden, Or perhaps in the bold strokes of ancient astronaut hypotheses, a camouflaged outpost for extraterrestrial visitors like the Anunnaki. What secrets lie buried in this pure, clean, and bright land, as Sumerian texts describe it? And why do its echoes in Genesis suggest a shared memory that transcends mere myth? As we sift through the sands of history and speculation, the boundaries blur, inviting us to imagine Dilmun not as lost utopia, but as a staging ground for cosmic interventions that shaped our world. Dilmun first appears in Sumerian records as a sacred realm, often linked to the god Enki, who transforms its barren expanses into a verdant haven by summoning fresh waters from the earth. In the myth of Enki and Ninhursag, preserved on tablets from Nippur, Enki orders the sun god Utu to draw pure water through channels, turning Dilmun into a place where the lion kills not, the wolf snatches not the lamb, a sanctuary free from death, disease, or strife. This imagery pulses with life rivers branching like arteries, fields yielding without toil, a geography that feels engineered for perfection. Scholars, drawing from excavations in Bahrain, long identified as Dilmun's core note, how its archaeological sites, like the Barbar Temple complex, reveal advanced water management systems, with wells and canals that sustained a thriving Bronze Age society amid arid surroundings. But here's the twist. These feats weren't just human ingenuity. Sumerian hymns portray Dilmun as a divine gift, a land of the living where gods experimented with creation, hinting at technologies beyond the era's known capabilities. Now, overlay this with Genesis's Eden, a garden planted eastward by God, watered by a river that splits into 4 streams, the Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates. The Tigris and Euphrates anchor it firmly in Mesopotamian terrain, but the Pishon and Gihon remain enigmas, perhaps echoes of lost waterways or symbolic flows from Dilmun's mythic springs. Both locales share uncanny traits: a pristine environment, abundant resources, and a location in the east, where humanity's first steps unfold in harmony before disruption. In Eden, Adam tends the garden without sweat until the fall. In Dilmun, no labor mars the bliss, until Enki's transgressions introduce imperfection. Comparative studies emphasize how Dilmun's sweet waters parallel Eden's life-giving river, suggesting Hebrew scribes, during their Babylonian exile in the 6th century before the Common Era, absorbed and adapted these motifs to craft a monotheistic paradise. The riddle sharpens. Why replicate so closely, if not to reclaim and redefine a shared cultural inheritance? Push the inquiry further into unconventional territory, and Dilmun emerges as a candidate for an Anunnaki base, a forward operating post in their earthly endeavors. Zecharia Sitchin, in his 1985 explorations, portrayed Dilmun as a neutral zone for the Anunnaki, extraterrestrials from Nibiru, who established outposts for mining and genetic projects. He linked it to Bahrain's ancient harbors, where artifacts like stamp seals depict winged beings and advanced motifs, interpreting them as landing sites for skycraft. Enthusiasts on forums extend this. Dilmun's strategic Gulf position, with access to trade routes and resources, made it ideal for alien logistics. Its purity, a code for a controlled environment, free from contamination, perhaps a biodome, or quarantine zone for experiments like human hybridization. Excavations reveal underground chambers and unexplained alignments, fueling speculation that these were hangars or labs hidden beneath the paradise facade. The water motif intensifies the curiosity. Dilmun's hymns celebrate Enki's irrigation feats, springs bursting forth to nourish the land, much like Eden's river sustaining the garden before dividing into 4. But in Anunnaki theories, water symbolizes more life essence, perhaps a medium for genetic alchemy. Sitchin suggested the Anunnaki manipulated aquifers for energy or terraforming, turning arid zones into oases with tech mimicking miracles. Dives in Bahrain uncovered reservoirs with sophisticated drainage, predating known engineering, prompting whispers of extraterrestrial aid. If Eden draws from Dilmun, was the biblical river a sanitized memory of these systems, the mist watering the ground a hint at atmospheric controls? Human presence in these paradises adds another dimension. In Dilmun myths, it's a godly retreat where Enki fathers beings in a fertile idyll, free from mortality until curses intervene. Eden mirrors this. Adam and Eve dwell in bliss, until the serpent's temptation leads to expulsion and toil. The serpent, often tied to Enki's iconography as a wisdom bringer, suggests a shared archetype knowledge as a double-edged gift. In alien interpretations, Dilmun becomes a Eden base for Anunnaki R&D, where early humans were tested. The fall, a metaphor for rebellion against creators. Ex-posts speculate underground Dilmun sites hold genetic vaults, with Bahrain's tumuli graves concealing hybrid remains. Geographical clues tantalize. Dilmun's eastern locale matches Eden's eastward placement, with Bahrain's position near Sumer aligning with Mesopotamian views. Yet, some pinpoint Eden in Armenia or Africa, while Dilmun's Gulf ties persist through trade artifacts. Sitchin viewed Dilmun as a neutral haven amid Anunnaki feuds, its isolation ideal for bases. Recent satellite imagery reveals submerged structures off Bahrain, speculated as flooded Dilmun ports or sunken alien facilities. Theological shifts intrigue. Sumer's Dilmun, as godly playground, becomes humanity's cradle in Eden, perhaps to center the narrative on divine-human covenant. Alien theorists see this as cover-up, hiding Anunnaki experiments. Books argue Dilmun's no-death motif echoes Eden's tree of life, guarded post-fall like a restricted zone. Modern quests keep the mystery bubbling. Dives in the Gulf uncover pearls and seals, hinting at Dilmun's wealth. But anomalies like aligned mounds suggest observatories or landing pads. Remote sensing tech probes for hidden chambers, fueling theories of lost tech. If Dilmun was an alien base, its submersion, perhaps from Anunnaki-induced floods, explains the lost status, with Eden a symbolic remnant. Cultural ripples extend the enigma. Dilmun in trade epics as a pearl haven parallels Eden's gold and bdellium. Anunnaki angles posit it as a resource hub for Nibiru shipments. Documentaries explore this, blending archaeology with speculation. The riddle endures. Eden or Dilmun, garden or base. Each clue layers curiosity, from linguistic ties to submerged secrets, challenging us to see paradise not as myth, but as veiled history. What if the rivers hid portals, the trees encoded knowledge, the Gulf's waves lap at answers, but the depths hold their breath, waiting for the bold to dive deeper? As you linger on this thought, dear listener, where are you hearing this tale unfold? Maybe a cozy room with rain tapping the window, or a sunlit porch overlooking a restless sea. What time does your clock show, marking the moment you ponder these lost utopias? The whispers of Dilmun and Eden call us all, no matter where we stand, to seek the truths beneath the tides. As the relentless rains of a forgotten era lash against the reed-thatched roofs of ancient Ur, a lone figure, perhaps a weary scribe or a wide-eyed survivor, huddles by a flickering oil lamp, etching the first whispers of catastrophe onto softening clay. This is the dawn of the flood myth, not as a singular divine judgment, but as a collective memory etched across Mesopotamian tablets, where the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Atrahasis saga paint a world drowned in divine regret. In these tales, the hero Utnapishtim, or Atrahasis, receives a clandestine warning from the compassionate god Enki, builds a massive vessel sealed with pitch, gathers life aboard, and emerges to offer sacrifices that draw the gods like moths to a flame. Fast forward through the corridors of time to the Hebrew Genesis, and Noah steps forth with his ark, a parallel so precise it begs the question: was this a universal cataclysm remembered differently, or a deliberate reworking of Sumerian roots during the Babylonian exile? Fresh archaeological layers unearthed in Iraq stir the pot anew, suggesting not just myths but tangible scars of floods that reshaped civilizations, hinting at secrets buried deeper than the silt itself. The Sumerian flood narrative bursts forth in the Atrahasis epic, composed around the 18th century before the Common Era, where the gods, weary of humanity's clamor after creating them as laborers, unleash plagues, famine, and finally a deluge to silence the noise. Enki, ever the rebel, whispers instructions to Atrahasis: construct a boat of exact dimensions, load it with family, animals, and provisions, and seal it against the torrent. The waters rage for 7 days and nights, submerging the world until the vessel grounds on a mountain. To test the receding flood, Atrahasis releases a dove, a swallow, and a raven, the last staying away, signaling dry land. A sacrifice follows, its aroma so pleasing that the gods swarm like flies, regretting their hasty destruction and vowing never again to wipe out mankind so completely. This isn't abstract poetry. It's a vivid chronicle of survival, with details that feel pulled from lived trauma, the pitch-sealed hull creaking under waves, the birds' frantic flights cutting through mist-shrouded skies. Layer onto this the Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest surviving great work of literature from around 2100 before the Common Era, where Utnapishtim recounts his ordeal to the questing king. The gods' assembly decides the flood in secret, but Ea, Enki's Babylonian counterpart, bores a hole in the reed wall to warn Utnapishtim, urging a cube-shaped ark stocked with every living thing. The deluge lasts 6 days, birds scout the water's ebb, and post-flood offerings appease the deities, who touch their lips in remorse. These elements, divine counsel, covert warning, multi-day storm, avian scouts, aromatic sacrifice, form a blueprint that analyses continue to dissect, with scholars noting how Gilgamesh's version, rediscovered in the 19th century at Nineveh, preserves an older oral tradition predating the biblical text by over a millennium. Enter Noah, the Hebrew patriarch from Genesis chapters 6 through 9, compiled during or after the 6th century exile. God, grieved by human wickedness, instructs Noah to build an ark of gopher wood, 300 cubits long, sealed with pitch, and filled with pairs of animals. The rains fall for 40 days, the waters prevail for 150 days, and upon receding, Noah sends a raven and a dove. The dove returns with an olive leaf, heralding renewal. A burnt offering pleases God, who covenants never to flood the earth again, sealing it with a rainbow. The symmetries are striking. The ark's pitch, the animal cargo, the bird's reconnaissance, the post-flood altar. Yet, nuances diverge. Sumerian floods stem from godly annoyance at noise, biblical from moral corruption. Multiple gods regret in Mesopotamia, a singular god covenants in Israel. Medium explorations emphasize these as cultural adaptations, not copies, with the Hebrew version elevating ethical themes amid exile's turmoil. Archaeology breathes fresh life into this ancient drama. In August 2025, a team at Tel Farah in southern Iraq uncovered a thick layer of yellow clay and sand beneath 5,000-year-old Sumerian ruins, signaling a massive flood that buried an entire settlement. This discovery, reported in Indy 100, aligns with earlier finds at in the 20s, where Leonard Woolley identified silt deposits from around 2900 before the Common Era, a regional deluge that could have inspired the myths. But revelations go further. Environmental modeling from Clemson University, published in August, reconstructs how tides and river floods shaped Sumer's rise, with satellite data revealing ancient coastlines that amplified cataclysms. Imagine the Euphrates swelling beyond banks, tides from the Gulf surging inland, turning fertile plains into a churning sea, events that scarred collective memory, evolving into tales of divine wrath. These layers aren't isolated. A phys.org report details samples from Lagash showing tidal influences on urban growth, suggesting floods were recurrent, not singular, fueling a shared mythic reservoir. National Geographic's episode on biblical treasures revisited Noah's flood, probing Mesopotamian evidence, and concluding that local inundations, exaggerated over generations, birthed global narratives. For Americans, steeped in disaster epics like the film Noah from 2014, this resonates regional floods ballooning into universal judgment, much like Hurricane Katrina's lore in retrospectives. But the Sumerian roots whisper of something more, Enki's pity as a counter to Enlil's fury, a divine debate that humanizes the gods, contrasting Yahweh's solitary decree. The conspiracy angle simmers beneath. In ancient astronaut views, the flood wasn't natural but engineered by Anunnaki to reset overpopulated hybrids, with Noah divided by Utnapishtim as a preserved genetic ark. Sitchin's theories, echoed in YouTube series, claim the deluge targeted noisy humans, early experiments gone awry while elites like Enki saved samples. Vatican framing, per some, insists on Noah's uniqueness to obscure these pagan precursors, hiding archives that might link floods to extraterrestrial intervention. Quora threads debate Christian explanations, with users noting similarities as evidence of a true event distorted by time, not plagiarism. The boat's design fuels fascination. Gilgamesh's cube-shaped vessel, stable for stormy seas, mirrors Noah's rectangular ark, both pitch-sealed against leaks. ICR comparisons tabulate over 20 parallels, from duration to post-flood vows, suggesting a common source event. Creation.com's updates argue Gilgamesh's closeness to reality validates Genesis as eyewitness-inspired. Birds as scouts add poetic symmetry, the raven's non-return in Gilgamesh, the dove's leaf in Noah, symbols of hope amid desolation. Sacrifices seal the pact. God's fly-like gathering evokes biblical pleasing aroma, a ritual bridge from divine to human. Theological undercurrents intrigue. Sumerian floods punish overpopulation. Biblical sin. Exile scribes, per the Torah.com's revisit, transformed Atrahasis' noise into moral failing, aligning with Yahweh's justice. Answers in Genesis's myth-busting claims. Originality, dismissing Gilgamesh as derivative. Reddit's debates frame it as plausible history, not copy. Global echoes extend the tale. Hindu Manu, Greek Deucalion, floods as renewal. BAS explorations tie Noah to Utnapishtim, seeing shared archetypes. If Anunnaki reset, Noah's roots in Sumer reveal a cosmic cover-up, with Vatican uniqueness a veil over ancient resets. In Earth.com report, tides birthed Sumer's society post-flood, mirroring renewal themes. Archaeology.org's January piece on Babylonian omens hints at flood predictions, blending myth with foresight. The NCSE's enduring evidence underscores Mesopotamian floods as biblical origins. The flood's secrets persist, a deluge of questions, regional or global, divine caprice, or moral lesson. Sumerian roots ground Noah in history's silt, but the waves of curiosity crash on, urging us to dive into the depths where myths and mud entwine, revealing truths as vast as the waters themselves. From the shadowed canyons of Afghanistan, where U.S. Special Forces once patrolled under starless nights, emerge tales that defy the official record whispers of a 13-foot giant with red hair and six-fingered hands, slain in a cave skirmish around 2003, its body whisked away by black helicopters to vanish into classified vaults. This Kandahar giant, as dubbed in veteran accounts circulating on podcasts, isn't isolated folklore. It's a thread in a tapestry stretching back to the biblical Nephilim, those enigmatic giants in the earth whose origins blur the line between divine rebellion and extraterrestrial intrusion. In the book of Genesis, they appear as the offspring of sons of God and human daughters, mighty warriors of renown who filled the world with violence before the flood. But splice in Sumerian lore, and the Nephilim morph into potential Anunnaki hybrids, engineered beings from Nibiru's visitors, blending alien DNA with earthly stock to create towering enforcers or experimental anomalies. As unearths fresh anomalies in global digs and viral leaks, the question looms larger. Were these giants fallen angel spawn, or the biocrafted legacy of starfaring overlords whose experiments still echo in our bones? The Nephilim's biblical footprint is sparse yet potent, a cryptic verse in Genesis 6 declaring, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown." Apocryphal texts, like the Book of Enoch, excluded from canon but revered in Ethiopian traditions, expand this into a saga of 200 watchers angels who descended on Mount Hermon, swearing oaths to defy heaven by mating with women. Their progeny, the Nephilim, colossal beings who devoured resources, turned cannibalistic, and taught forbidden arts, sword-making, sorcery, and astrology, corrupting humanity until God unleashed the flood to purge them. Enoch describes their spirits lingering as demons, a disembodied menace haunting the earth post-deluge. Fresh translations and AI-assisted analyses of Dead Sea Scrolls fragments reveal hints of these giants' diets consuming not just flesh, but everything that the earth produced, evoking a ravenous hybrid metabolism unsuited to our world. Weave in the Anunnaki, those Sumerian sky gods interpreted by Zecharia Sitchin as extraterrestrials from Nibiru, and the Nephilim take on an interstellar hue. Sitchin's theories, amplified in documentaries like The Anunnaki Connection, posit the Anunnaki as bioengineers who created humans as laborers but experimented further, hybridizing their own kind with ours to produce enhanced beings. Perhaps the Apkallu sages, semi-divine advisors in Mesopotamian lore, who became the biblical watchers. These hybrids, towering and knowledgeable, could be the Nephilim, part alien, part human, their gigantism, a side effect of Nibiru's gravity, or genetic tweaks for mining gold in harsh Earth conditions. A post from @ChronosCryptid speculates these beings were demonic hybrids, linking them to global myths of titans and Rakshasas, suggesting Anunnaki bloodlines persist in elite families today. The riddle intensifies. If Anunnaki engineered us, were the Nephilim failed upgrades, rebels against their creators, or weapons in interstellar wars? Global folklore amplifies the echo. Native American tribes speak of red-haired giants like the Sitikar of Paiute legend, cannibals slain in Nevada caves, their mummified remains allegedly found in Lovelock Cave in the early 20th century, tall skeletons with 6 fingers, now lost in museum storage. A Smithsonian whistleblower leak on X claims suppressed reports of giant bones from Ohio mounds, carbon-dated to pre-Columbian eras, with anomalous DNA showing unknown paternal lines. Greek titans, Hindu Rakshasas, and Norse Jotun, all colossal hybrids of gods and mortals, wreaking havoc until divine intervention. A YouTube video, Were the Fallen Angels Nephilim the Anunnaki, explores these parallels, suggesting a global Anunnaki network deploying hybrids as overseers, their downfall sparking myths worldwide. Post-flood sightings keep the intrigue bubbling. Numbers 13 describes Canaanite giants like the Anakim, so tall the Israelite spies felt like grasshoppers. King Og of Bashan's iron bed, 9 cubits long, over 13 feet, hints at surviving Nephilim lines. In Anunnaki terms, these could be remnant hybrids, their genes diluted but potent, explaining elongated skulls from Paracas, Peru, with unusual cranial volume and non-human hair, analyzed in labs showing mitochondrial DNA anomalies. Ex-user at Miss A Hazone, Inch posts about Nephilim descendants as human hybrids with Anunnaki evil DNA, linking them to modern elites and unrepentant wickedness. Another thread from @GoldenHeart1223 shares documentaries on Nephilim as fallen angel hybrids, questioning their return in end times. Conspiracy veins run deep. David Icke's Reptilian Theories updates frame Nephilim as Anunnaki shapeshifters, their hybrid bloodlines controlling governments, with giants' bones hidden to suppress truth. A Facebook post teases the movie Anunnaki, 2025, blending mythology with sci-fi hybrids. Biblical apologists like @TNT John 1717 on X discuss giants as Nephilim tribes, citing the Book of Enoch for their demonic legacy. Meanwhile, @DeepWebslinger shares videos on pre-flood giants, tying them to Anunnaki and fallen angels. Scientific curiosities tease further. Genetic studies in Nature reveal ghost DNA in modern humans from unknown archaic species, potentially explaining rare gigantism conditions like acromegaly, where individuals grow to 8 feet or more. Archaeological giant finds, like Sardinia's 7-foot skeletons from digs, fuel debates: are these Nephilim remnants or just tall ancients? Enoch's descriptions of giants teaching weaponry align with sudden Bronze Age tech leaps, perhaps Anunnaki gifts. End times prophecies add urgency. Revelation's apocalyptic visions echo Nephilim chaos, preachers warning of their return as hybrids or demons. A book, The Watchers and the Nephilim, compiles evidence from texts to modern sightings, blending biblical and alien theories. Ex-user @HaPrethodnika questions if Jews are interdimensional demons, tying to Nephilim conspiracies. The hybrid enigma endures. Divine fall or alien splice. From Kandahar caves to biblical verses, the giants stalk history's edges, their shadows lengthening in disclosures. Each unearthed bone, each leaked tale, nudges us closer to unraveling whether they were heaven's rebels or Nibiru's experiments, beings whose blood might still flow in veiled lineages, waiting for a reckoning. The ground beneath our feet may hold more than dirt. It could cradle the colossal truth of our tangled heritage. As you reflect on these towering mysteries, dear listener, Where are you tuning in? Perhaps a bustling cafe in Chicago, or a quiet desert trailer under a vast sky? What hour marks your thoughts on these ancient giants? If this journey into the unknown captivates you, I'd love for you to join our Mystery History for Sleep community. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let's uncover more secrets together under the stars. In the coiled embrace of a medical emblem etched on ambulances racing through city streets, two serpents intertwine around a winged staff. The caduceus, a symbol of healing that traces its lineage back to ancient Mesopotamia, where gods like Ningish were depicted as serpentine guardians of life, knowledge, and the underworld. This icon, adopted by modern medicine without a whisper of its origins, hides a riddle. Why has the serpent, once revered as a beacon of wisdom across civilizations, been recast in biblical lore as the ultimate deceiver in Eden? Dig beneath the surface, and the threads lead to Sumerian myths of Ningish, a deity flanked by dragons or serpents, embodying renewal through skin shedding and secrets of immortality. In the lens of suppressed histories, could this transformation signal a deliberate erasure of alien-derived knowledge, with the Anunnaki, those enigmatic sky visitors, using serpent symbolism to encode advanced insights that earthly powers later demonized to control the masses? As we slither through layers of myth, art, and modern conspiracies, the serpent's wisdom emerges not as temptation, but as a forbidden gateway to cosmic truths that institutions have long sought to seal shut. Ningish presence in Sumerian iconography, dating to the 3rd millennium before the Common Era, paints him as a complex figure, lord of vegetation, chair-bearer of the underworld, and a protector whose serpentine form symbolized justice, fertility, and the cycle of rebirth. Cylinder seals from Lagash show him as a human with serpents rising from his shoulders, or transformed into a full serpent with a human head, often accompanying the god Dumuzi in journeys to the netherworld. In hymns, he's invoked as the lord of the innkeepers, tied to wine and abundance, but his deeper role lies in the mysteries of life and death, serpents shedding skin as metaphors for resurrection, a concept that esoteric researchers link to DNA's double helix, spiraling like twin snakes in a dance of regeneration. This isn't idle symbolism. Sumerians viewed serpents as conduits to hidden knowledge, creatures that slithered between realms, guarding trees of life in art that predates Eden's garden by centuries. One seal from Gersu depicts Ningish flanking a sacred tree with a human figure, a scene so evocative of Genesis that it prompts whispers. Was the biblical serpent a demoted version of this god, his wisdom suppressed to fit a narrative of sin? The shift becomes stark in Genesis 3, where the serpent, described as more cunning than any beast, tempts Eve with the fruit of knowledge, promising godlike awareness of good and evil. God's curse follows. Crawl on your belly, eat dust, enmity with woman's seed. This inversion from Sumerian reverence to Judeo-Christian villainy fuels debates on platforms like X, where users speculate it was a power play by ancient priesthoods to hoard esoteric insights. In Sumer, serpents like Mushusu or Bashmu were protective, tied to Ningish role in the Trans-Tigridian snake gods group, linking underworld journeys with vegetative renewal and justice. Why demonize? Perhaps because serpent wisdom encompassed forbidden arts, alchemy of the soul, immortality elixirs, or interstellar navigation that threatened hierarchical control. A post from @Quantum Tumblr ties this to Anunnaki modifications, claiming serpents represented recursive harmonic intelligence, a bioplasma interface the aliens installed in humans, later suppressed to keep us in a memory cage. Anunnaki connections amplify the suppression narrative. In Sumerian pantheon, Ningish is a scion of Anu, the sky god, placing him within the Anunnaki Council, those princely offspring who, per Zechariah Sitchin's interpretations, were extraterrestrials, engineering humanity. Sitchin, in works like The Lost Realms from 1985, linked serpents to Anunnaki symbols of wisdom and DNA, suggesting the caduceus as a stylized double helix representing genetic knowledge they imparted. Spotify podcasts, like the Anunnaki Connection, explore this, claiming the pine cone, pineal gland, and winged disc alongside serpents, encode activation of human potential, third eye awakening, that biblical redactors twisted into sin to prevent mass enlightenment. A Facebook post from posits serpents as Anunnaki reptilian hybrids, their knowledge of evolution and immortality hidden to maintain control. David Icke's reptilian theories in updates frame Anunnaki as shape-shifting overlords, serpents symbolizing their DNA legacy in elite bloodlines, suppressed to keep humanity docile. Global serpent veneration heightens the curiosity. In Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, brings maize, calendars, and wisdom, mirroring Ningishzidah's vegetative ties. Australian Aboriginal rainbow serpent creates landscapes and laws, a creator guardian. Hindu Naga are underworld serpents hoarding esoteric lore. Reddit threads on r, divided by strange earth, question why serpents, one of the most worshipped symbols, became evil in Western traditions, perhaps a deliberate inversion to bury alien-taught sciences like energy manipulation or longevity. A Facebook group post links serpent myths to Eden, suggesting Anunnaki as reptilian gods whose knowledge was reframed as temptation. Medical suppression adds intrigue. The caduceus, often confused with Asclepius's single snake rod, stems from Hermes, linked to Ningishzidah via Greek syncretism, symbolizing commerce but adopted for healing. X posts from @Quantum Tumblr claim it's a frequency map for pineal activation, suppressed by pharma to limit human potential. In Sumer, Ningishzidah's serpents guard life trees, akin to Eden's knowledge tree, guarded post-fall by cherubim, perhaps to block Anunnaki immortality secrets. A YouTube video ties this to ancient alien theories, with serpents as evolution symbols suppressed to enforce creationism. Reptilian conspiracies twist the tale. Ike and others inframe Anunnaki as reptilians, serpents as their archetype elite shapeshifters controlling via suppressed wisdom. A 3 Reddit post questions serpent worship's fall, linking to Anunnaki as reptilian aliens. Ex-user @MindsEye 369 inches mentions Anunnaki as reptilian pantheon with serpent gods. Another post from @ScienceBoyJack calls them non-human, bird-serpent hybrids. Esoteric revival in revives serpent wisdom. A thread from @Amuraka hidden on the way of the ANKH sees serpents as numerical doctrine, cosmic forces. @Vlad the Alien claims Anunnaki degraded DNA, serpents symbolizing louche harvesting deception. @Agent, mock ties pineal blockage to Anunnaki modifications. Archaeological finds tease more. Digs in Iraq uncover serpent seals near trees, pre-Eden motifs. Universe Magazine's article debunks Anunnaki as reptilians, but notes myth's alien vibes. @Archaic 138 dismisses Anunnaki as aliens, calling them human fleets post-cataclysm. The suppression narrative endures, serpent wisdom as alien tech, DNA activation, immortality, demonized to keep humanity ignorant. From Caduceus to Eden, the serpent coils with questions, healer or tempter, god or alien. Each symbol peeled reveals suppressed layers, beckoning us to reclaim what was hidden. The riddle slithers on, its scales glinting with untold possibilities. In the quiet hours when the veil between worlds thins and the stars above seem to pulse with unspoken invitations, imagine a solitary wanderer tracing the faint glow of a digital map on a handheld screen, navigating not through physical terrain but through the labyrinth of human memory itself. This is the essence of Unsealing the Truth, a personal odyssey where each click, each unearthed fragment, becomes a key turning in a long-rusted lock. We've journeyed through shadows of ancient gods and alien whispers, from the Vatican's guarded vaults to the rogue orbits of distant worlds, piecing together a mosaic that challenges the very foundations of our shared story. But now, as the pieces align under the light of inquiry, the call to awaken isn't a thunderous decree from on high. It's a gentle stirring within, urging us to reclaim the narrative, to question the silences, and to forge a future where hidden knowledge illuminates rather than divides. What if the Anunnaki's legacy, the biblical echoes, and the cosmic cover-ups aren't endpoints, but starting points for our own evolution, a blueprint for humanity to step beyond the myths and into a dawn of collective enlightenment? Consider the power in your hands today, where a simple search query can summon echoes from Sumerian clay tablets digitized in online archives like the Cuneiform Digital Library Initiative, allowing anyone with curiosity to cross-reference the Enuma Elish's chaotic battles with Genesis's ordered days. No longer confined to dusty scholars or elite gatekeepers, these texts invite you to draw your own lines between the dots. The 7 tablets of creation mirroring 7 days of divine labor, or the flood hero Atrahasis whispering blueprints to Noah across millennia. This accessibility isn't accidental. It's the fruit of decades of digitization efforts. From Google's 2010 partnerships with museums, to AI-enhanced translations that render cuneiform into readable English with unprecedented accuracy. Yet, with this power comes a subtle thrill, the realization that unsealing isn't just reading, it's reinterpreting, questioning why certain parallels were softened or silenced, and pondering if the Anunnaki's hand in human origins was edited out to preserve a singular divine narrative. Awakening begins with small acts of defiance against the prescribed story. Picture logging into a virtual reality simulation where apps like those from the British Museum let you walk the ruins of Nineveh, virtually handling Ashurbanipal's tablets that first revealed Gilgamesh's flood to the modern world. As you touch the clay, feel the weight of suppression. These stories, once locked in scholarly journals, now flow freely, allowing you to trace how Utnapishtim's raven became Noah's dove, or how the gods' regretful banquet evolved into a rainbow covenant. But the curiosity deepens when you overlay ancient astronaut lenses, Sitchin's Nibiru theories, now bolstered by exoplanet data from NASA's James Webb Telescope, suggesting rogue worlds could indeed harbor life. What if the flood wasn't just divine wrath but an Anunnaki-engineered reset, a planetary cleanse to correct genetic experiments gone awry? This perspective shifts the awakening from passive acceptance to active exploration, encouraging you to cross-check biblical verses with Sumerian hymns, uncovering layers where serpent wisdom like Ningish Cedar's healing coils was twisted into Eden's temptation, perhaps to bury extraterrestrial tech transfers. The call resonates louder in our interconnected age, where social platforms become forums for unsealing. On X, threads explode with user-generated maps linking Dilmun's paradise to Eden's garden. Users crowdsourcing satellite imagery from Google Earth to spot submerged structures in the Persian Gulf that might mark ancient bases. One viral post from @Echoes of Eden compiles overlays, showing how Dilmun's 4 rivers align with Eden's, speculating Anunnaki irrigation tech as the source advanced aqueducts that sustained utopias, but were reframed as divine gifts to obscure alien involvement. This communal unsealing fosters a sense of empowerment. No longer reliant on institutions, individuals piece together puzzles, debating if the Rib Riddle of Ninti and Eve hides cloning protocols, or if Nephilim giants were hybrid enforcers whose bones still surface in suppressed digs. The Tomo builds as comments flood in, sharing personal aha moments, like realizing the Anunnaki's council in Sumerian lore echoes the plural Elohim in Genesis, a linguistic slip that hints at edited polytheism. But awakening isn't without its shadows. It demands navigating the fog of disinformation. Deepfake videos circulate, purporting to show Vatican leaks of Anunnaki artifacts, serpentine staffs glowing with unearthly energy, only to be debunked by fact-checkers, yet leaving lingering doubts. This dance of truth and trickery mirrors the ancient suppression. Just as biblical scribes may have demonized the serpent to control access to wisdom, modern powers, governments, corporations, even religious bodies might seed confusion to dilute revelations. Recall the US congressional hearings on UAPs, where whistleblowers like David Grush hinted at non-human biologics. Tie this to Anunnaki hybrids, and the awakening sharpens could recovered craft hold keys to the Nephilim's genetic legacy, suppressed to prevent a paradigm shift. The invitation here is to discern wisely, using tools like AI verifiers to sift fact from fiction, turning skepticism into a lantern that illuminates rather than blinds. Envision the ripple effects of this unsealing on daily life. Wellness trends, practices inspired by serpent wisdom, Kundalini yoga, where energy coils like a snake up the spine gain traction, users on TikTok linking them to Anunnaki activation of the pineal gland, that third eye symbolized in Vatican pine cones. This isn't fringe, it's a mainstream reclaiming, with apps offering guided meditations to awaken your inner Anunnaki, blending Sumerian chants with binaural beats to stimulate latent DNA. The curiosity peaks when participants report vivid dreams of flooded worlds or giant shadows, as if unsealing unlocks subconscious archives. Similarly, genetic testing kits, like 23andMe's advanced panels, reveal archaic DNA markers, prompting users to wonder, is this trace Anunnaki code, the blood clay fusion that birthed Adam? Forums buzz with stories of people tracing lineages to Mesopotamian roots, awakening a sense of cosmic heritage that transcends national borders. This personal awakening scales to societal levels, challenging entrenched powers. Imagine petitions flooding the Vatican, demanding access to archives rumored to hold Sumerian-influenced manuscripts, texts that might confirm the Anunnaki's role in Eden or Dilmun as hybrid nurseries. Drawing from transparency movements, like those following UAP disclosures, these calls echo a broader demand. Unseal the truth. Let humanity judge its origins. The Tomo lies in the potential fallout. What if unsealing reveals the flood as an Anunnaki geoengineering event, not divine punishment, or Nephilim as engineered soldiers in interstellar conflicts? Such revelations could redefine faith, science, and identity, fostering a hybrid worldview where ancient myths inform future tech, like CRISPR edits inspired by Enki's creations. Yet, the path to awakening weaves through ethical thickets. Unsealing risks cultural appropriation, where Sumerian sacredness is commodified in NFTs of cylinder seals or VR tours of Dilmun. The invitation is mindful engagement, respect the origins, use them to bridge divides. For instance, collaborations between Iraqi archaeologists and global teams digitize more tablets, making unsealing a shared endeavor that honors the past while enlightening the present. This collaborative spirit awakens a global consciousness, where the Anunnaki's story isn't alien invasion but a mirror to our potential creators who engineered life, reminding us we too can shape destinies. As the awakening unfolds, it sparks innovation. In labs, researchers draw from serpent symbolism to advance regenerative medicine, engineering skin-shedding nanobots for healing, echoing Ningishzida's renewal. Space agencies, inspired by Nibiru's rogue orbit, design probes for distant exoplanets, seeking signs of similar visitors. The curiosity drives art, 2 novels and films, reimagining Eve as a Ninti-inspired rebel, unsealing forbidden knowledge against patriarchal odds. This creative surge awakens dormant imaginations, turning passive consumers into active seekers. Ultimately, the call to awaken is an inner alchemy, transmuting doubt into discovery. In quiet moments, as you scroll through digitized myths or gaze at the stars, feel the stirrings, the Anunnaki's hybrids, the Vatican's secrets, the biblical veils, all invitations to unseal your own truth. What awaits in that unveiling? Perhaps a unified humanity, awakened to its cosmic roots, ready to forge alliances beyond Earth. The journey doesn't end, it evolves, each unsealed layer revealing more, beckoning you forward into the unknown with wonder as your guide. The truth, once awakened, cannot be resealed. It flows like a river from Dilmun, nourishing the seeds of tomorrow's revelations.